Hey there, this is Vince Ritchie of vinceprep.com. Part 2 of my HBS Questions Behind the Questions video, how not to blow it with the Harvard application. Look, I'm reading a lot of essays right now. I'm reading a lot of long and boring and repetitive essays, and I wanted to take a little bit of time to make a video to connect with you, the applicants out there, to help you improve your chances of getting admitted to Harvard. A lot of people, I feel, are trying to win the battle but lose the war. I'm not into war, and I don't like using war metaphors, but this one really works. Winning the war, winning the battle and losing the war. What do I mean by that? If you feel that there's a ton of stuff you have to tell, if you're annoyed with Harvard, if you're annoyed with D. Leopold and her team cutting the number of required essays, you know, I've been doing this 11 years. I've seen the application get shorter and shorter and shorter. She's a pro. She's been doing this since at least 1980. 1980, I was 10. You weren't even born, probably. This woman's been running the Harvard admissions office since at least 1980. Think about it. She knows what she's doing. That application form has a ton of little boxes. What people are doing is they're thinking of the essay as the entire application. That's a huge mistake. It's not. When you hit submit, you're going to get a PDF document that's pages and pages long, and Harvard gets one that's even longer because it includes your recommendation letters. They look at that stuff holistically. All of those little boxes are important because they reflect the admissions criteria of the school. You're just thinking about this as the essay, so you're trying to squeeze everything into that essay that you want to tell them as if it's a speech. It's not. It's a piece of the application that allows you to answer the question by telling them what story have they not allowed you to tell in all those little boxes. So the other thing I want to say about this process is that this is an exercise in leadership. So Harvard is the quote leadership school, right? Again, I don't like these stereotypes. Stanford is the entrepreneurship school. Not only. Wharton is a finance school. Absolutely not only. Harvard is the leadership school. Well, leadership is certainly important to them. It is one of their admissions criteria. What do good leaders do? Good leaders make good choices. If you're choosing to cram everything you could into the essay, they only allow you 3 extracurricular activities. So you're saying, okay, activity 4 and 5, I'll put that in the essay. Those are the ones that didn't make the cut. The essay is not leftovers, right? It's not like, right. It's supposed to be the best thing you've ever written that answers the question of what else have you not had the chance to tell them. So show good judgment, which is what what good leaders do. Leadership at Harvard is about having confidence and presence, and most of all, self-awareness. So, and judgment and decision-making is a big part of it. So, the urge that you're having to, fit everything into this 2-page essay or 1-page essay, whatever it is not the right urge. You need to calm down, take a deep breath, remember who you are, remember that you are a leader, that you do have good judgment. You're eligible to even apply to Harvard, or you're applying because you have something to give and something to show and something to contribute. It means you are a leader. You've got to remember that. Okay? So go through the application cover to cover, look at it holistically. Don't just send 10 people you're just the essay and say, what do you think of my essay? That's a mistake, and they aren't looking at you holistically. You need to look at yourself holistically, and you need feedback from people who know how to do that, is my big advice here. Don't ask them, how's my essay? Ask them, am I repeating myself? We repeat ourselves when we're under stress. We repeat ourselves when we are unprepared. So if you're repeating stories from the application data form in the essays, it means you're unprepared or under stress, which means why would they want to admit you? You are under stress. You're trying to finish your Harvard application, but you can't show it. Don't let them see you sweat. Let them see you make good choices. Last thing I want to leave you with, I want to make this video short, but I just think Well, it's not about me, but I just thought I'd give you an example. If I were applying to Harvard, I would fill out all those boxes first, and there's a lot of stuff that I couldn't fit into those boxes that Harvard would need to know about me. Look, I have a very unconventional resume. My career, my life choices have been extremely untraditional and unconventional. And so, just as I have to explain to friends and family, I would need to explain to D. Leopold and the readers of my essay and my application why I made certain important choices in my life. I'm not sure I'd include this in my final essay, but I would explain why I chose Stanford instead of Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I got into a bunch of schools undergrad. Every school I applied to took me. I chose Stanford unconventionally. I didn't really know why at the time, but in orientation, I met this person, Patricia Ryan Madsen, the writer of this little book. This is a card, not the real book I always give my copies away. I met her during orientation. She was my mentor, still is, my master teacher, my guru. She teaches improv. Improvisation, group theater, forms the foundation of everything I love and believe is great about life. Improv is definitely my core, and that's what I did at Stanford, and that's why I chose Stanford, although I couldn't explain it at the time I chose it because I hadn't met her yet. But as soon as I met her, I knew that's why I was there. Next unconventional choice I made was not following my classmates and who went to McKinsey or wherever, or joined investment banks. I became a teacher. I ran a nonprofit. I moved to New Orleans, Louisiana. Very unconventional choice. I would explain why I made that choice and what I learned there. The application data form or my resume would have the achievements, but I would tell the backstory, why I went there, what I learned, how I turned around the education nonprofit. The resume would show the turnaround of this organization that I helped, recover and get back on its feet. The essay would show a little bit more about why and how I did that. The next big choice I made in my life was going to New York City. I chose NYU instead of Harvard. Also in this time instead of Columbia. Why? Couldn't quite explain it, but as soon as I got there to NYU, I knew, again, I met a mentor, a Japanese filmmaker, a Fulbrighter, a guy who was there from Tokyo, who then brought me here to Japan 11 years later. I'm still here. I found love. I got married, had a family. Along the way, I found ways to use all of the training I've ever had, the improv stuff, the critical thinking stuff, the history stuff, to do what I do now, which is to help you, the applicant, tell your story with confidence and presence and reflecting leadership and being aware of your strengths and weaknesses, etc. So I came here not quite knowing why. After I got here, I fell in love, figured out why. Found love both with a person, with my wife, and with a job and a vocation, what I do now, that I really do quite love because I love helping people tell their story. So I would talk about, again, the achievements of Vince Prep or whatever would be in my resume or in the application data form, or God help me if I could get a recommendation letter for Vince Prep. Probably I'd get somebody from my organization, AGAC, whatever. The stories would be there, but the how and the why wouldn't have been able to fit in those little boxes. They ask reason for leaving, but that would start to tell the story. But this essay would really be mostly a story about the Phoenix as a character, as a mythology character, about death and rebirth. When I was at Stanford, there was a huge earthquake. The house I was living in got knocked over. I was living in the Peace Dorm, this hippie co-op. It fell over in the earthquake, an old building. I went down to New Orleans. There were hurricanes. I wasn't there for Katrina, but we all know what happened to New Orleans. It was after I left, but that city itself was constantly being destroyed. I was in New York for 9/11. I was in Tokyo for the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, where 19,000 people died. I've experienced these catastrophic things. Do I take it personally? No. Am I claiming responsibility? No. But I've been a part of, throughout my life, I see this sort of cycle of destruction and recreation, and I think that's a big part of who I am. And there's no way I'm going to fit that in a tiny little box. I would try, but then I would use this essay. I would write a page or two about this idea of the Phoenix and also a little bit about the motivation behind my future goal, which is actually, with or without a Harvard MBA, transforming education, using technology, turning existing industries like admissions counseling on their head by using technology, thanks YouTube, to transform the conversation and to provide useful tools to help people express themselves. So that's me, and that's the story I would tell Harvard if I were applying. I'm not. I don't think you're going to use my story. That's why I'm giving it away, because pretty much no one else could tell that story. So get a second opinion. Look beyond the essay. Look for people who will evaluate you holistically. Find your voice. It takes time. It's very much worth it. And at the end of the day, remember who you are. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Don't follow some template or some some magic. This is the way to write an answer for Harvard. Pardon my French, but bullshit. There's not one way to do it. There's no formula or template for my story. There's no formula or template for your story. It's the story that doesn't fit in the little boxes. That's the story you've got to tell. I'm sure you've got it. Keep digging. Keep finding it. Enjoy the process. Thanks for watching. Check out vinceprep.com. Subscribe to YouTube for my latest updates. Best of luck. Make it happen. Bye for now.